You get up, and you are already exhausted. The body stands up, but the mind pulls chains. The day hasn't even begun, and everything in you already weighs, the thought, the chest, even the silence. When you look around, everything seems normal, work awaits you, your phone vibrates with requests, disguised as possibilities, and the world keeps saying, "Come on, you can do it." But here's something. You may not have been told you're not just tired, you're sick. The illness is not limited to you. It affects the entire community. We live in a time where sorrow no longer has a face. There are no bars, bosses shouting, or blatant repression. But there's something more cruel, the unspoken demand of performance. You've become your own oppressor. What was once an external directive has become a constant murmur within your head, telling you to do more, be more, and generate more. Do not stop. Never stop. Byung-Chul Han refers to this as the society of performance, a system in which you assume you are free, yet you are more imprisoned than ever. Trapped by the belief that every second must be productive, every action must produce results, and every breath must take you somewhere, and if you give up, fail, or rest, you will believe. You have no value. Positivity has turned to poison. Freedom has transformed into handcuffs. The ability to do everything has become synonymous with the inability to stop. Do you feel guilty if you're not producing? Do you get anxious when you don't respond to messages? Are you frustrated when you don't meet your personal goals, even when no one else expects you to? This isn't simply stress. This is not simply tiredness. This is burnout, but not the kind that a weekend trip can cure. It's existential burnout, the kind that leaves you empty within while you try to be normal on the outside. And if any of this seems familiar, it is not a coincidence. It's because you're inside the system. The establishment wants you to believe that this is normal, but it isn't. This video is a wake-up call, not a request to generate more. Because maybe for the first time, someone is telling you that you are not weak. You are simply trying to live in a society that sickens individuals who want to be strong all the time. Take a deep breath. We're going to discuss this, and you're not alone. For a long time, power communicated through shouting. There were prisons, barracks, factories, and asylums. There were obvious instructions: sit down, remain quiet, and obey. Michel Foucault described this as a disciplinary society. The rationale was straightforward. Someone issued a command and you obeyed. Today, nearly no one prevents you from doing anything. No one says you can't. On the contrary, they tell you that you can accomplish whatever you want, that you are free, that you have limitless potential, and that all it takes is effort, attention, and discipline. And while this message appears to be good and motivating, it also contains a trap. When everything depends only on you, any failure is your own. This is the essence of the modern performing society. The prison has no walls, but it does have purposes. The punishment is not physical, but psychological. You are the one who makes demands on yourself. Byung-Chul Han describes you as an entrepreneur in your own right. What's the problem with that? An entrepreneur cannot stop. They can constantly improve. They can always expand. They can always accomplish more. This throws you in an unending race with no finish line, rest, or truce. Have you noticed that even leisure has become a goal? Reading is good, but it has to be constructive reading. Meditation should be a performance skill. Exercise has become a mandatory task. Even sleep has become a battlefield. You track its quality, calculate the hours, and optimize your nighttime routine. Resting is no longer rest. It's planning to do better tomorrow. You don't live. You control yourself. And when you fail, are unable to cope, become ill, or freeze, you blame yourself. After all, no one has prevented you from doing anything, right? You had freedom. You had a choice. You just needed to make an effort. But that's where the perversity is. The new type of oppression is convincing you that you are oppressing yourself freely. Control has changed shape. It has exited the figure of the boss and entered your mind. You've become your own prison guard. The wall is no longer visible, but it still exists. It was erected with expectations, numbers, productivity, and self-demand. And this wall is much more difficult to shatter since you no longer know where the system ends and you begin. But if all of this is crushing you from within, it's because this model is fundamentally flawed. Living in conflict with yourself is not natural. And this silent conflict has left its mark on your mind, on your body, on your soul, and that's what we'll discuss next. Because the tiredness that consumes you comes not from an external opponent. It comes from within, and it is fueled by something seems harmless, but it is not. Excessive positivity. If this content makes sense to you, click the subscribe button to follow the channel. Thank you for your support. You learn to smile even when you're breaking apart inside, to say that everything is okay when you are on the verge of collapse, to project an impression of control, efficiency, and excitement, even when everything in you begs for a break. And do you understand why? Because we are engulfed in a new form of violence. Violence that seduces rather than hits, shouts, or imposes. It invites. It motivates. It is the violence of positivity. Byung-Chul Han warns us, the 21st century is no longer dominated by diseases caused by repression. We no longer live in times of censorship, strict prohibitions, or forcefully imposed limits. What makes us sick today is not the you can't. It is the yes, you can. What corrodes from within is not traditional oppression, but an abundance of stimulus. An excess of perceived freedom, an overabundance of positive demand. The order now is to smile, produce, optimize, and be joyful at all times. However, this excess comes with a great cost. Depression, ADHD, anxiety, and burnout are no longer distinct clinical abnormalities. These are social symptoms. They are psychic responses from a body and mind that can no longer withstand the strain of constant performance. The most strange aspect of this new circumstance is that you stop being a victim and begin to feel guilty. Couldn't you be productive today? Laziness, feeling unmotivated, lack of attention, on the verge of collapse, lack of thankfulness, a lack of yoga, lack of a fresh course. The fault is always yours. This is how positivism makes you sick. It does not tolerate boundaries. It will not accept failure. It does not tolerate grief, pauses, or slowness. And the more you attempt to conform to this fake ideal of cheerful production, the further you drift from yourself. You transform into a motivating caricature while everything inside you collapses. Today, positivity has become an imperative. You are constantly assaulted with terms such as believe in yourself, just want it, and be your best self. It appears harmless, even encouraging. However, the effect is different. You never feel enough. You never think you've done enough. There's always something to improve, rectify, or accelerate, so you never stop working. You are surrounded by objectives, analytics, and comparisons on social media, at work, and even in your free time. And the constant barrage of stimuli does not enhance you. Rather, it exhausts you. It's like being stuck on a treadmill that never stops accelerating. And the worst part? You believe you are the one who turned on the machine, but you weren't born that way. Nobody was born to be constantly attentive. This model was created, and it is gradually emptying you. Because beneath all of this energy, bustle, and production, something has been buried. Something you'd forgotten how to reach. That is what we are going to investigate presently. Because a part of you is dying from suffocation, a part has been forgotten, ignored, discredited, and it may be the only one capable of mending you. It's time to talk about stillness, boredom, and everything you've stopped allowing into your life. Have you noticed how, in recent years, everything around you has evolved into a form of continual improvement? You are no longer just a person. You have become a project, an investment, or a personal brand. Someone who has to grow, sell themselves, and reinvent. Not because you want to, but because if you don't, the world will delete you, marginalize you, label you as outmoded, lazy, and unimportant. The irony is that this pressure is no longer coming from a boss, a government, or a visible power structure. It emanates from within. You have become a product of yourself, and you have turned into your own executioner. Byung-Chul Han describes this as self-exploitation. You no longer need a manager to watch over you. Instead, you demand, control, and punish yourself. Productivity has become the new definition of obedience. You believe you have control over your life since you are free to select, create, invent, and pursue your dreams. But no one informed you that this freedom is a lie, because all viable options lead to the same result. More labor, more demands, and more acceleration. Even what was once sacred, what once provided shelter, has evolved into an extension of your act. The body has become into a machine that can be optimized. The mind is a tool for achieving goals. Networking has evolved from relationships. Spirituality has transformed into coaching. Rest has become merely another way to refuel and generate again. Even your free time is analyzed, monetized, and optimized. You have transformed into a firm, and you are the lone employee of that company. But no one can keep this up for long, and you know it. The overburden is more than simply physical, it is existential. You are everywhere except within yourself. You're always functioning but never truly living. And deep down, you know that the more you attempt to conform to this image of success, the further you feel from your own nature. And now comes the question that few have the confidence to ask. What did you lose in the process? What did you leave behind while you strive to be a better version of yourself each day? What was silenced? What did they set aside? There may be a part of you that has forgotten what it was like to exist without having to justify it. In the next part, we will talk about this forgotten space, about the silence you fear, the boredom that scares you, and contemplation, a rare and nearly extinct skill that you may need to rediscover now. Because you were not born to be a cog, you were born to feel, to be, to merely exist. When was the last time you allowed yourself to do nothing? Do not prepare, not respond, not consume, or not defend yourself. Simply be. Feel time passing without the sense of wasting it. Maybe you don't know how to do that anymore, and this is not your fault. You've been trained to be constantly active, available, and connected. Any pause is swiftly filled with a notification, a new assignment, a brief video, or other inspiring content. I need to solve this first. Leisure has become a waste, silence has gotten uncomfortable, and boredom has become an enemy that must be eliminated. But let me tell you something that no one talks about. Deep boredom is not a floor, it is a portal. According to Byung-Chul Han, boredom was once a rich place for creativity, reflection, and genuine presence. It was here that philosophy, art, and spirituality flourished. Because boredom, the kind that isn't in a hurry, worries you, forces you to confront yourself, allows for thought. And reflection is what reconnects you to your humanity. Today, however, we are engulfed in fragmented attention. We move from stimulus to stimulus like animals on high alert. Multitasking is no longer a skill, but a survival instinct. You watch a video while replying to mails, thinking about tomorrow's meeting, and feeling bad about not doing more. The moment has become unpleasant, and this mental hyperactivity comes with a price. It strips you of your depth, your connection to the world, to others, and to yourself. You get used to swallowing everything on the surface, even your own emotions. You feel but don't go deep. You reflect, but you don't go deeper. You live, but you do not occupy. That's why you feel exhausted even after napping. Even in silence, I feel anxious. Even in the presence of others, I feel disconnected, because your soul has been trained to run but has forgotten how to halt. And pausing does not imply weakness. Stopping signifies a reunion. It is in silence that you hear what the rush hides. It is in the pause that you realize how wounded you are. It is in the emptiness that you rediscover yourself, free of all the layers of productivity that have been imposed on you. However, this return to being demands courage. Have the courage to slow down, to bear the discomfort of having nothing to do, to bear the emptiness till it becomes productive. Above all, it takes bravery to refuse the pressure to perform. And this is where we enter one of Byung-Chul Han's most revolutionary points of view, a concept that may appear unusual at first look, but may contain the only real path out of the crisis we are experiencing. Not being able is a type of freedom. In the following section, we will learn why stopping might be the most powerful act you can take, and why, perhaps, the true rebel of our day is the one who has the bravery to do nothing. You have been brainwashed to believe that freedom entails the ability to do anything, that the more choices you have, the more liberated you will be, that the ideal life is one filled with accomplishments, movement, and self-determined decisions. But no one told you that this excess of power, choice, and initiative is also a prison, possibly the most subtle and deadliest one of all. Our society believes that not taking action is a waste of life. Everything must have a purpose, function, and outcome. Even rest must justify its existence in terms of energy recovery. Even quiet should be marketed as strategic self-care. Everything should make sense. Everything should be profitable. Everything needs to produce something. But Byung-Chul Han gives us a novel idea. True freedom begins with reclaiming the right to not do, act, want, or be useful. This appears counterintuitive, doesn't it? Throughout our lives, we strive for the ability to travel, produce, succeed, and make decisions. However, the ability to act has become a requirement. You can, so you must. So what if you don't want to? What if you cannot? What if you are just tired? The answer you hear from society is clear. You have failed. In this model, there is no room for vulnerability. There is no space for no. Everything that does not follow this logic of action, achievement, and growth is regarded as a deviation, weakness, or lethargy. But what if true strength lies exactly in the space of refusal? Saying no is a demonstration of power. Refusing excess haste or overload is an act of resistance, not wanting to always improve, not embracing every opportunity, not following all advice, not responding to every call. Saying no to the world so you can say yes to yourself. This inability is revolutionary. It defies the logic of unlimited productivity. It dispels the notion of being the best. It restores human dignity by allowing them to exist without continuously proving their worth. And when you allow yourself to say no, something happens internally. Anxiety makes way for silence. Guilt yields to presence. The excitement transitions into breathing. You no longer need to chase after yourself because you are already present, whole. But don't be tricked. This independence is not pleasant because it demands confrontation. It requires you to look at the void and say, I accept not to be everything. I accept that I cannot do everything. I accept just being. And this contradicts everything you've known up until now. Attempting to break free from constraints can lead to illness. The real difficulty isn't to do more, it's about being able to stop, be able to let go, to be able to say enough. But when you start to understand the no as liberty, something becomes clear. Noise obscured a clear vision, a strength derived not from victory but from surrender. A tranquility that only emerges when you reject struggling against yourself. This leads to the most profound truth, which you may have already experienced without naming it. The burnout you are experiencing is more than just exhaustion. It is a sign of a failed way of living. Your soul is crying out for rescue. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is shouting, perhaps softly or repressed, but nonetheless screaming. Because you recognize, even if only faintly, that something is fundamentally wrong with the way we live. And I'll tell you plainly, what you're feeling isn't weakness. It is not an incapacity. It's not a lack of mental strength. In a system that expects perfection, it's natural to characterize those who fall short as failures. You do not fail because you are exhausted. Your exhaustion stems from a life paradigm that drains your emotional, psychological, and spiritual resources. A model that has transformed each human into a production machine, a showcase of performance, a success avatar. The pursuit of impossible goals might lead to the loss of valuable significance. Byung-Chul Han emphasizes that burnout is a common occurrence. This is not an exception. It is the most obvious manifestation of a collective existential crisis. It is not the collapse of a few too sensitive or disorganized individuals. It is the collapse of an entire social logic, one based on self-exploitation, the cult of efficiency, and the disdain for silence, leisure, and inner life. You are not alone. This pain you carry, this fatigue that doesn't go away, this feeling of emptiness even when everything should be fine, it is not your fault. It's a cry from your body and spirit. I'm asking for a different beat, a distinct perspective, a distinct way of experiencing the world. The journey starts with a simple yet impactful decision. Refuse to accept the status quo. Perhaps you are still unsure how to get out of this. Perhaps what I've said has hit you deeply, but you're not sure how to handle it. That is okay. The first step is to not act. The first step is to acknowledge, to feel. Allow yourself to look within, without filters, without defenses, without reason. And if you related to all of this, if this addressed something you didn't even realize you needed to hear, I'd like to ask you one thing. Leave a comment down below, tell me how you feel. Tell me if this resonated with you. Because sharing helps us recognize ourselves. When we identify ourselves, healing begins. Continue watching the next video. It is equally significant as this one because transformation does not occur at once. It occurs in layers, in conversation, in reflections that accumulate. Until one day, you wake up differently. More whole, more aware, more free.